Hey Joe, here's a quick video to try and help you solve your problem where I have a similar model set up with each of these bone models that you need to align according to the holes that you subtracted from the mesh, which are not necessarily aligned themselves. As I understand it, you need the overall bone to align these 2 points, and then these 2 points to align on the ground floor in the z-axis. So it's not a quick solution, but it's the only way I could figure it out, and it has to do with an armature. So let's add the armature, tab into edit mode, and move this bone into position. We will snap the head of the bone and the tail of the bone to the points in your bone model. So to do that, we will select each bone model and then select one vertex of the whole, Control L to select the whole thing. And this does assume that your hole has an equal number of vertices, so that when I Shift S, snap the cursor to selection, that cursor is in the middle of your hole. Tab back to object mode, select our armature, tab into edit mode. I can select the head, Shift S, and snap the selection to the cursor. Now the head of this bone is exactly in that hole. And then the same process for the other end. Select one vert of the opposite hole, Control L to select everything, Shift S, and snap the cursor to the selection. Tab back to object mode, back to the bone, select the tail, Shift S, and snap this selection to the cursor. So now we have this bone aligned between the 2 holes of your bone model. And I will repeat this by duplicating a bone with Shift D and snapping to the other 2 bones in this chain. Note that these bones are separate objects, and I will speed up the playback of this process. And now that we have our armature bones aligned to our individual bone models, we can set up a method for alignment. And so remaining in bone edit mode, I'm going to select the first bone and Shift D to duplicate it and then scale it down. This is going to be a target for a damped track constraint. So let's do the same thing for the other 2 bones, Shift D, and then we'll scale them down using individual origins. The scaling process is just so that they look different than our other bones. And then we will tab into object mode and Control tab to go into pose mode. Now we can parent each of our bone models to its respective bone. I think it's best to select the bone first, tab to object mode, select the bone I want to parent, then Shift select our armature and Control tab to go back to pose mode. You need to be in pose mode to parent to a specific bone. So with this selection set up, Control P and set parent to the bone. All right, now if we move this bone, the mesh follows it. Same thing with the other bones. And now remaining in pose mode, we're going to set up our damped track. First select the target, Shift select the bone that will follow it, and hit Shift Control C to bring up our add constraints with targets. So if we choose damped track, that bone will now follow this other bone. We'll do the same thing for the others. And now that we've got that mechanism set up, I can simply hit Shift C to throw our cursor at the origin, change our pivot to be the 3D cursor, select all my bones, and then change the pose options to be affect locations only, so I can scale in Z at 0. Okay, this will put the target of each damp track constraint on the ground, creating perfect horizontal alignment between the holes. If I hide our armature, we can check that. You can see the whole sphere aligned to the red axis. And I believe that's what you're trying to do. So the only thing left to do would be to clear your parents, which I accidentally hid the last bone. So select each bone and Alt P to clear and keep transform. And then you can get rid of the armature. And I think that's what you're trying to do. So hopefully that helps. Good luck.